episode of Stuck in the Truck. Today we have a guest on our show. His name is Jermey Sutton, right? Said that right? I did say that right. He's going to be joining us on our show to talk a little bit about his business, his podcast, and different things that he would be able to help you guys out with taking that next step in your careers, in your business. Really, we just had a quick conversation momentarily before we started going live with everybody here. And I could really tell you that you're really going to be blown away with some of these things. One thing I can honestly tell you is that Jermey does a lot of ghostwriting and book production, but he's a business coach for people looking to write their own books. So if you're not really interested in ghostwriting, he's probably the guy you really want to talk to get the guidance you're going to need to write your book. Now, before I let him start talking about all this good stuff, I'm going to let you guys know that I've wrote 2 books myself. One is called Puppy Training Made Easy and A Guide to Having Socialization of Your Puppy. These 2 books, man, they put my gray hair in my beard. It took a lot of work for me. It was a lot of effort, and I really look back going, man, if I had somebody like Jermey in my hand right there to help me, guide me, and really show me the route that I needed to take to get these books done, it probably wouldn't have taken me many, many years. So without further ado, I really want to take a moment to say, hey, Jermey, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate you being stuck in the truck with me as we're driving through Harper County, Maryland. And I want to just give you the microphone and just tell us a little bit about yourself, your business. And also, everybody, if you guys are interested in Jermey's stuff as he's going on, if you're watching live or on the YouTube page, you can see that his website is entrepreneurrisingpodcast.com. So it's entrepreneurrisingpodcast.com. You could go check out his show and his information. So go ahead, Jermey, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mike, for having me. I really appreciate it. I've never been in Harper County, Maryland, so I'm happy to be stuck in the truck with you. And so if you can tell by my accent, I'm from Louisiana, so we talk a little bit differently down here. Yeah, so I'm a physical therapist by trade. I wrote my first book about 3 or 4 years ago, and just started geeking out on all these podcasts about books, and kind of became the go-to guy for all my friends that wanted to write a book. And when I gave my first book to a client, she said, "This is not your book." And I was like, "Yeah, flip it over and see who's on the back." And there's my picture, and I look just like this. So it scared her a little bit. And she's like, "Oh, this is your book." And just to see the buy-in that I got, even more so from somebody just seeing that I'd written a book, and people would even say, "You're the first healthcare provider I've had that's written their own book." And it really wasn't that difficult for me to write that first one. And so I just started writing. I've written 6 now and have them published on Amazon, and then started kind of coaching people for free how to do it. And then I was like, hey, I can turn this into a business. And it really became my passion. And so that's what I've been doing. My business is a little bit over a year old now. And we've published 36 books, I think, since last September, and have about 4 to 6 more that are going to be published in the next couple of weeks.
Wow,
and
that is no joke.
So
that is no joke.
So it's been pretty cool.
You're up to 40 published books in a year.
Yeah,
that's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. Now, are you when you're publishing? Are you using the Create space? Are you self-publishing? What are some of the things that people might look into when they're looking to do a book that might scare them when it comes to publishing?
Sure. So right now, most every one of the books are on Amazon. So it's called kdp.amazon.com. So it's all self-published books. There's Barnes & Noble, there's iTunes, there's a ton of different things online that you can do. But the cool thing about self-publishing, Michael, is that you get to keep control of everything. And so when I coach somebody, when we help them write the book or whatever, like I never want any kind of commission. I don't really want a whole lot of creative authority over their book. I guide them. I don't want them to put out something bad, but it's your book and you own it. And that's the whole reason to self-publish, is you get to make all the calls and all the decisions. And the crazy thing is, when you self-publish a book, like my clients are averaging about 5 months from start to finish to get their books published. And these aren't like 30-page books. They're, 150-page books. They're good books. They're quality. And they're putting those out. And whereas if you publish traditionally, it may take a couple of years. You're going to have to pitch it to a bunch of publishing houses, and maybe it doesn't turn out exactly how you wanted it to. So there's a huge advantage of keeping that control you know, on your desk in your mind. And then when you go to market your book, whether it's published or self-published, you know, you pretty much do it on your own anyway, unless you're somebody like Lewis Howes or John Maxwell or Dave Ramsey or somebody. They're probably not going to market your book that heavily.
Yeah, I mean, if you're one of them, yeah, obviously, you know, again, it comes with fame and fortune, right? I mean, most people that are, you know, extremely famous are not even, never mind marketing it, they're probably not even have anything to do with the books.
No,
a lot of times they're written by somebody else, and they get told, hey, if you put your name on this, we'll pay you. So there's a big difference to it. Now, so from my experience, I have found that, you know, if you're looking entrepreneur, you own this, you have so much knowledge that you really want to share. So even though you might not think people are interested in a book, they might. My personal experience is it sets you aside and puts you in a different ball game than anybody else in your industry. I mean, do you find that with all the different clients that you've been working with, that they have found their businesses to take a spike because they were able to say a published author or people who can really research them now that they wrote a book?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'll give you a couple examples. One's a smaller one, but one of my clients wrote a book, and she's a mobile therapist, goes to people's homes and does things, and it's all cash-based business. But she would go in this place and talk to the administrator, and they would, you know, leave your business card. Well, she's like, well, I actually have my new book, and I'd love to leave it with you. So she sits down, talks. The administrator's like, sit down and talk to me. So they talk about this book, and she ends up getting a client who pays her $5,000 over the next 5 months. Just for a $2.50 book that she handed them. So it turned into a huge thing for her. And then I have another client who was working, and he and his 2 business partners now do coaching for people that want to set up their own mobile businesses. And so he has a book, and one of his other partners has a book now, business partner, and they're able to send these books out to potential clients. You know, they sign a bunch of copies and ship both of their books out, and they really one of them is the book on how to do the business, and the other one is the mindset needed for the business. So it greatly increased their credibility and their expertise. And just for the books that I've written, I've been asked to speak at 3 different conferences. I'm speaking at one in Ireland. Because of COVID, I don't get to go to Ireland, so I'm a little aggravated about that. But, you know, it's just because I have a book.
I know the feeling. I actually got to be, I was invited to speak this year, and got, you know, my, I always wanted to, I don't know why, but I just wanted to be a speaker. And finally, 2020, my house. You know, there's like all these different places. Zoom call it from your house. No more hotels, you know?
That's right.
So
that's right.
Real kick and junk.
Yeah. I told my wife I got asked to speak at a conference in Ireland, and she like jumped off the couch. She's like, "We're going to Ireland?" I'm like, "No, it's on Zoom."
It's on Zoom, yeah. Technically you're there, but not really. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. You know, so moving forward, I mean, a couple of things that I think for myself that I'm sure people are wondering is, you know, all right, so if I put a book that makes me stand out, now what industries? You are more familiar with the medical industry just because of your career path, or prior career path, I should say, right?
Yeah.
Now you're in this. You know, I could say for the dog industry, it really does help separate you as a, you know, as a trainer, because of the fact that people can actually get to know your expertise levels. But what about like mechanics or, you know, stockholders, just generalized businesses or other people that are like new small businesses, HVAC? Would somebody that does HVAC benefit from writing a book or doing something like that? Is it something that you see or feel in your coaching that this could help them?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's a really good study about an attorney in California who became the go-to guy for, you know, 18-wheeler accidents because he wrote a book on it, and he would give it to clients and he would mail it to people. And like, he became the guy that did that. He didn't know any more than anybody else in town or in, you know, the city, but he had a book on it. So Michael, when you can be the guy or the girl, the woman, the man that wrote the book on the subject, you know, it it's a better introduction. If you say, hey, here comes Jeremy, he's going to speak about writing books. But if you say, here comes Jeremy, he wrote the book on self-publishing, well, then it's a whole different story. And so I've seen it help any business owner. And, the whole thing is I started out in healthcare, but everything I teach it goes across any business. Business is business. You gotta people have to know, like, and trust you. You have to serve them at a high level. You really actually have to have customer service instead of just saying you do. And then, the books help set you apart. And so I've got a local guy here that's a good friend of mine that sells BMWs. We're working on a book for him to help him sell more cars. And we're working on, he's in the #1 BMW dealership in the country, which is crazy. It's here in Louisiana, but he's we're trying to make him the best salesman in the country. And then, I've got real estate agents that do stuff. And so, yeah, it helps any business.
See, that's where really I think a lot of people will find themselves dropping off, right? I mean, let's face the facts, right? So there's a couple of people that will turn around and go, like you just said, we talked about somebody selling BMWs and he's going to write a book. So first things first, it goes to show you that anybody in any business, I'm hearing, would benefit from writing a quick 100-page, 150-page book, which again, you can use big letters, right? So you can use big font, page, right? You don't really need to come up
if you want to.
Yeah, use big font. That way you get 200 pages, and it makes yourself seem it's a little thicker. You can go hard copy, right? So,
that's right, there you go.
So I guess, if I was listening to this, I've never wrote a book before. I'm trying to think of personally all the anxieties that I went through back in the day, which was how would I get to 100 pages? Hence the joke of the big font. But I guess that's where I think a lot of people. So when they're hiring you as a coach, you're guiding them and pulling the information almost like an interview, I'm assuming, or how do you help them get the right information?
Yeah.
I remember when I was starting it, I was pretty lost. Like, where do you start? And the hardest part for me was in dog training, because that's what my book was on, was that every dog I feel is completely different, just like every owner is completely different. And you have different wants and needs. So finding the beginning was a real difficult task for me, because who was my exact market? Who was I gearing to?
Yeah.
Because like you said, you're in Louisiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not saying we're massively different, but most likely, I don't know where you live, like where your home environment is, but if you live in the country, you probably have your dogs more off leash than if you lived in a major city, right? So if you're, that's where we change those things. So I guess if I was, listening to this podcast right now, where would be the first step in guiding? What would be something they could do? Could they call you? Could they reach out to you to get a good underline?
Absolutely. I'll have my Calendly link is on entrepreneurrisingpodcast.com, and they can go there and we can do a free 30-minute call. And I do those every day. I would say the first few steps I tell anybody is one, let's figure out what you're going to write about, because, you're a dog trainer. Well, you know a ton about dog training, but if you sit down and write the entire book on dog training, well, it's going to be 800 pages or longer. Nobody's going to read it because it's going to, it's going to prop up the door. So we have to chunk that up and make it where people can digest it. So first is pick your topic and your avatar. I like to tell people, don't write to a million people, pick one person. So we're going to write to Michael J. Solar. He's a dog trainer. He has his business and he used to be a cop and all this stuff. And so we're going to write it to you. It's going to pertain to thousands, hopefully millions of people, but I'm going to have you in mind when I write it, because I want to know as much about you as I can. And then really where people hang up on the book writing process is the outline. And that's where I really go in deep with my clients. And that's our very first phone call. I call it our roadmap call, where we sit and map out your entire book. And maybe we don't follow that completely, but I wouldn't leave Louisiana and try to drive to Maryland without a map or GPS now. And so we don't write our books without a map. And because if you do, you're just going to be sitting there tapping on your desk going, okay, what's next? So that's really the biggest hangups is, who am I writing to? What am I writing about? And what's my outline? Once you get the outline, it goes pretty quickly because now you know what you're going to do. And so I would say, I heard someone say this, maybe everybody doesn't need to write a book, but probably most of us have a book in us, because you are an expert to somebody, whether you've been doing something for a year or 10 years, more than someone else does about that subject. So you can turn that into a book. And you don't have to be, one thing you said, Michael, about, whether you live in the country or in a city with your dog, is people think that they need to be famous to everybody. Well, you don't need to be famous to everybody. If you're a mechanic business, then you need to be famous in your town with people that are going to come to your business. You don't have to be famous across the country. So that's really one thing I think people get hung up on too, is like, I'm not Grant Cardone. Okay. I'm not going to be on every major channel. I want to be on the channels in front of the people that I want to talk to. So that's what you have to think about.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people always see like the best sellers. Like that was one thing that I should bring up right now, because like you go on, you ever see these people in marketing that the best Amazon bestseller, and I'm thinking in my head going, how are they all the bestseller? So what is with that? How is all of these bestsellers? Is it just a stick you buy?
You just uncovered the biggest secret. So every one of my books that I've published, I'll take that back. Not every one. Almost every one of the books that we have published have hit #1 new release. Okay. So that's it's like your podcast. If we release a podcast today and it goes to the #1 on the business category, then that's your #1 podcast. So what all these authors do, me included, my clients included, as soon as that hits, you take a screenshot of it. So you have social proof, every marketer, social proof. And then a lot of times we hit #1. And so my book, friend David Bailiff wrote a book on the mobile entrepreneur mindset, and he hit #1 it was a physical therapy book. He hit #1 in physical therapy. He hit #1 in small business and #1 in another category. So he had a #1 bestseller. It was the #1. So that's really, when you're talking about somebody who's written a book on Amazon and they're saying, I have a #1 bestseller. That's really all it is. So anybody just about can call themselves that. However, some people will hear me say that and they'll say, well, there's no reason to write a book because anybody can do it. Well, that's the case. However, not everybody does do it. And so you're still set apart from people, because 80% of people want to write books and only 1% actually write them.
Well, that's what I've always said. That's why with Stuck in the Truck, we come out every week. I literally tell people every step I've done every week. What got me where I am today, what allowed me to retire from the police department early, what allowed me to, at my age, to accomplish what I've accomplished. I'm literally giving step by step every week, and I would love to actually write a book on that, because it's like, hey, I want to give people the step by step. I truly believe that every single person that watches the show that's across the world has what it takes to be completely successful in everything they want. They just have to make those choices. Like you just said, that anybody can write a book, but only 1% actually take the step. And that's what's crazy to me to think about, that why is that number so low when right here we have you on the show. Here we're giving people access to you. You got your link right there on the screen, entrepreneurrisingpodcast.com. This is it. If you're ready to stand out, if you're ready to take that leap, reach out to Jermey, get set up with him. You really got to take the leap. I know in 2014, I wrote my book. 2 years later, I came out with booklets. It does set you aside. It really puts you in a different line. And I guess what really blows my mind is how many people are not taking that step when, like you said, it's there, it's easy, it's accessible. And yeah, we don't know. I mean, high school doesn't teach us how to balance our checkbooks. Right. You go to college, they don't really teach you how to come out in anywhere you live. They don't really tell you how to come out and face the battles of social media, all that kind of stuff. But they're teaching you how to essentially start career paths, right? Like follow I call it I typically look at it like this. I tell people all the time is, since the Industrial Revolution, we have killed our entrepreneur instinct. We've started to slowly but surely destroying it. And I'll give you a prime example. What I mean by that is this. You go to school from the age of 5 to 18, Monday through Friday, with weekends and holidays off. And it's typically 8:30 to 3:30 or 8:30 to 4:30, right? And that's across the board. Every country. Am I right? You agree with that statement somewhat, right?
You got me.
Okay. Now, all of a sudden, you get out into the workplace, and guess what everybody says when you make them work an evening shift or a weekend? I deserve overtime. I deserve this. I deserve that, because I'm working outside of the scope, when the truth be told is you're just working. Like, there is no scope. But because in dog training, we've learned in psychology, it's a 30, 60, 90. It takes, habits are formed. And if you're figuring, if you are from age 5 starting a habit of just coming in and hey, I work for a couple hours, I have 15-minute break. I work for a couple more hours, I have a half-hour break. I work for a couple hours, I go home. And then it was suddenly we get to the workplace, and that's what we're expecting. We're expecting this. And the irony is that, to me, that kills our drive. It kills because we've created such a routine that it shuts it down, right? It just kills it. Where the truth be told is, we have the spirit inside of us, and we just need to find the people like you, me, and things like that, and get ourselves around them to see that bubble, that habit, it can be broken and put into a way better scenario. I mean, I literally wish I met you in 2014, because I know I would have wrote 3 or 4 more books. But I look back on that book writing experience as torturous. The graphics designing, the layout designing, it was horrible. It was really just a torturous thing. And I know if I did it by myself, then with very little to no knowledge, what it would be like just to spend a couple of dollars to really get somebody like yourself involved. And again, guys, if you're, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching the show, listening to the show, stop being victim to habit. Break it. Get out there, do it. EntrepreneurRisingPodcast.com. Take this step, reach out to Jermey, get on this boat, right? Take this journey. Even if you love your job, but you want to look at what's going to set you aside, what's going to bump you. If you're looking at social media, wondering how all these people are doing what they're doing, I'm going to break it to you. A lot of it's fake. A lot of it is. But when we think of what it's all about, being famous, popular, things like that, success, in my opinion, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but success is doing what I want, when I want, with whom I want, the way I want, is how I define success. It's not about driving a Ferrari or those things, but it's about having the peace of mind when you go to bed that I'm not going to lose my house. My kids can go to school. My family's going to eat. My cars are paid for. I'm not living on credit card debt. I refuse to go in debt. I'm an anti-debt guy. So truly believe in the biblical saying of the borrower is slave to the lender. So I'm an anti-debt guy. So I believe everything needs to be paid for. So with that being said, I also suggest and typically tell people it's not the easiest journey to travel, but it is the most rewarding journey to be on. It is phenomenal. And the greatest thing about it, and Jermey's probably going to agree with this, is helping the other people. It's seeing the other people achieve it. I mean, Jermey wrote a book. He started building his business. Now, suddenly, what does he do with it? He's telling us how to write books to build our businesses, and he totally shifted his world plane to help other people become successful. So I guess, Jermey, to close out our show here, I want to give you a couple minutes just to let people know how to directly contact you. I mean, I know I've told people about your website, but let them know what you're directly offering and different services. Or I should say, before you even say that, is if you guys are unfamiliar what ghostwriting is versus coaching with writing, I guess Jermey should go a little bit on that one, right? So It's just to understand. Yeah, because I know people are probably like, well, I have no time to even hire a coach to write a book. So what would be an option if I don't have the time because I'm working and working? So I guess this would be good for you to let them know what that other service is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for letting me educate and talk about that. But one thing, I started out with an online course, like a lot of people, and so I still have that option if somebody wants to do everything on their own, which I don't suggest, but you can definitely do that. And then I offer like 1 or 2 phone calls with that. But then I have a done with you service, and then I have a done for you service. And the done with you is you still write everything, but I'm there. We get on, bi-weekly calls, and we do the roadmap call and get everything outlined. We make sure we know who your avatar is, what your topic is, what you're doing, and why you want to write your book, what your plan is. And we talk about marketing and funnels. And I get you on 5 to 10 podcasts when I do the done with you. And so I help you do all this stuff. And then the done for you. So there's a ton of people like you, myself and you, Michael. Like I have over 200 episodes of podcasts. This is my third podcast I've done. I have, you know, several hundred live Facebook videos that I've done. So I have a ton of content that I could put together and make a book out of. And so a lot of other people, especially business owners, have that as well. And so if you don't necessarily want to write a book, I understand. Let me do it for you. Let me and my team do it for you. And, you know, we'll take all your content, turn it into a book, or we'll get on the phone about 3 to 10 times and I'll interview you specifically for your book. And once you know, we get off the phone, it's just a conversation like you and I are having here. And I transcribe that and turn it into a book. And, you know, I have people on my team that have been working in the book industry for 10 years, have very successful books that they've done. So yeah, I would love to work with you. EntrepreneurRisingPodcast.com. You can go to that and it'll send you to my Calendly link to schedule a free phone call if you want to talk about if you know, so it's not right to write a book for everybody right now. So really what I specialize in and what I've learned over the last year of doing this is if it's just Joe down the street working a 9-to-5 job, it may not be the best time for him to write a book. But if it's Joe down the street that has a business and it's successful and he wants to take that business to the next level by, you know, speaking engagements, coaching, teaching, or just growing his business in general, then that's who, you know, really my service is for. So yeah, get to me, EntrepreneurRisingPodcast.com. There's a link to that to my other company, my company, healthybooks.net. And then I'm on every social media, Jermey Sutton on Facebook. Reach out to me. My cell phone number is 318-278-0330. Text me and we'll talk.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So if you guys are looking to reach out, start a book, or just look to see about even getting something smaller, even a booklet, it really does set you apart from everybody in your industry. It really takes you to a new level when you're thinking about how to grow your business. It's about building your credibility, your customer service, and showing people how they can get the inside view of you. So it's a great opportunity. Go ahead and reach out to Jermey at the EntrepreneurRisingPodcast.com. If you guys are looking to watch this episode later, you can check it out at blk9tv.com as well. You can always look at it live on Facebook, or you can check us out on iTunes and all the Spotify and every other podcast level, which has been a great honor for myself to have this show put on all these different platforms. So it's really cool that way. Jermey, thanks for staying with us. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next Wednesday for another episode of Stuck in a Truck.
Thanks, Mike.